Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another week, another edition of ESL Open Cup Asia, number 219. And oh, I just realized that I have the wrong title. Un momento here, but welcome to ESL Open Cup Asia 219, your weekly dose of ESL Asia StarCraft. I'm, of course, your host, VIP, and with me, I'm joined by the lovely people in the chat, by these amazing players as well. Exclamation mark B in the chat if you guys want to have a look at the bracket yourselves. Again, plenty of amazing players are lying before us, and we have our first series. It's going to be a PvP between two Protosses, between Stats and Jieshi. Oh boy, here we go. Again, these players have been on the rise. One of these players has been looking pretty hot right now as well, and I'm ready to bear witness as spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have the Chinese Protoss player representing Dragon Kaizi Gaming, DKZ. It is Jieshi. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss player, the Red Protoss representing himself. It is Stats. And speaking of, a big shout out to the people in the chat, and a big shout out to Complete Noob as well. Oh my god, for the gifting a sub to Canuck Prime. Thank you, Papi. Thank you so much for the support. We do appreciate it. Thanks to all the support that we get in the chat. We're able to commit. We're able to fund our tournaments. We're able to host our events. Thank you, Papi. Thank you. Always much appreciated. Quack. Quack, Papi. Quack. And here we go. We're getting into said PvP. And as we were mentioning our players' stats, he has been on the rise recently. He has been on the rise. He has been getting better and better, getting better results as well, taking maps off of Dark, taking series off of some big players. I would not yet confidently say that Stats is back in form, but he has been improving. That is what I will say. He has been improving, and his rate of improvement has been continuing here throughout these past couple of months. So I'm excited to see how far he can go and how high he can climb. Also, speaking of a shout out, a shout out as well to Kibrit in the chat. Oh my god, Kybrit, thank you, Papi, thank you so much for resubscribing for 4 months. Oh, 4 months. Thank you so much for all the support. That's a lot of months. That's a lot of support. Quack. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoy the emotes. Hope you enjoy the replay packs. Hope you enjoy the content and the casting on the CranKy Ducklings. Gracias, Papi, gracias. Yeah. Again, the night is still young. You know, there are plenty of matches ahead of us here tonight, and we might have a couple of extra matches as well, because we do have ESL Open Cup Europe later on in the evening. We also might be diving into some Stars War qualifiers as well, which is starting up in a couple of hours. So right after this, we have the Stars War qualifiers. Then right after that, we do have the ESL Open Cup Europe weekly as well. As it is going to be a 2-gate open out of Stats, it's going to be a 2-gate open out of Jieshi as well. Of course, we casted Stats during the KSL over the weekend. Stats was able to... did face off against Hero and did struggle against Hero, but he was able to bring down some other big Protosses nonetheless, so it was great to see Stats thrive, at least in the PvP matchup. Did he take down Classic? I'm just quickly double-checking. It was KSL 46, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, KSL 46, and sorry, it was Stats. He didn't take down Classic, he took down Parting. He 2-0'd Parting in the KSL, which was very impressive. Then went down to Hero, but I mean, that's Hero. Now he's here against Jieshi. Jieshi, of course, another rising star, another top-tier player in the Chinese region, one of the best Protoss in all of China, in all of the Asia region. But here we go, we are moving out with our initial depths. It is going to be 4 depths for the time being. We have a 5th and 6th depth as well. God, all the notifications. A 5th and 6th adept as well. A big shout out to Isan in the chat. Oh my god. Giving a gifted sub to Herm. Oh god. Hemrick B. There we go. Hemrick. Oh, thank you. Hemrick B even. Thank you so much for gifting us up. And thank you for the bits as well. God, Papi, God. Thank you for the 100 bits. Complete Noob. Thank you. All the support. As the depths, they do not quite shade into the main base. They are going to be denied. And thankfully, not too much craziness has occurred yet. Both players have taken their expansions. Jieshi has a slight worker lead, but has a later expansion in general here. And we are getting into our techs of choice. Twilight Council. Twilight Council opener here out of stats. Jieshi himself going for a Robo opener instead. Robo opener typically is more defensive here. We're able to get into faster Immortal production to make up for a Stalker deficit, but stats will have the much more mobile army with the Blink Stalkers. Meanwhile, the Adepts are going to be getting across the map once again. We do pick off a couple of probes. 2 probes going to be going down. We get 2 workers so far, and we should be able to barely get a 3rd probe as well. Oh, we barely do not. Shield Battery putting in a lot of work there, barely saving all of these workers, and only 2 probes go down. 2 probes for 4 Adepts. Sorry, 2 probes for 6 Adepts. Not really worth it here for Jieshi. But he's not done. Continuing to shade in those Adepts, keeping stats on the back foot, keeping him pinned back at home. We do manage to pick off a couple more workers. Good target find. We get 3 probes in total. Much better trade for Jieshi, and he continues to warp in, by the way. Just non-stop Adept aggression here from the Chinese Protoss. Behind this, there's that Immortal production we spoke about. We have to build up these Immortals. The reason for this is because Jieshi is throwing away his army for economic damage, which means he has almost nothing here to defend. He has 2 sentries. We need Immortals to hold on. Speaking of, stats is coming in for a counterattack. Now, thankfully, because Jieshi has been producing all these Immortals, and alongside the sentries with Force Fields, with Guardian Shield, with the Overcharge, with the Shield Battery, we should be okay. We should be a-okay here. From the side of Jieshi. Adepts, they move out once again, and oh, can they barely break through? They do not. We come into the shade, and we cannot get any additional damage done either. 2 more Adepts thrown away, and I'm worried for Jieshi. Now, Jieshi does have a higher worker count because of all the economic damage he's been doing. That is true, but the army is struggling as a result, and because of that, Jeshi's stuck at home. Now, it makes sense for Jieshi to expand. He's taking his 3rd base because he has no map control right now. He lost all of his army. He's stuck at home and taking a faster 3rd. Meanwhile, stats with a later 3rd base, but he's got an army. He has an army. He has Blink. Stats, even though breaking this army is going to be difficult, there's no Shield Battery at the 3rd. This position here is actually a little bit vulnerable, and there is a window. There's a timing that we can break through this. Otherwise, we could bypass the army and try to head into the main, or even into the natural. Now, stats pushing in does trigger the shields on one of the Immortals. And we go for the dive. There we go. 1 Immortal is going to be going down. We're going to try to focus on the other as well. We got 1, we get 2 sentries. A 3rd Immortal has arrived. Ooh, and the Shield Battery finishes up just in time. Stats, this was not worth it. Killing the 1st Immortal, that was all well and good, but the 2nd Immortal refused to go down. Shield Battery finished up just in time there to save Jieshi. And with that, Jieshi, he does push back. And stats getting punished hard here. Force overextension. Also, it is not the Sparkling Tunica, but I will get rid of that as well. Do apologize. We were casting the Sparkling Tunica yesterday, and I will have to get rid of that logos mod. But with that, Jieshi, he holds on. He gets away with his 3rd base. He maintains his economic lead, and behind this, we're getting into +1. We have completed Blink. Jieshi now has Blink alongside his opponents. Speaking of, Stalkers are going down. We do miss a couple of Blinks there. The Immortals doing what they can. Jieshi is slowly breaking through. And now the pendulum swings. The pendulum swings in favor of Jieshi. Suddenly, stats is in a bit more trouble. He's throwing down a 2nd Shield Battery. Warping in some Zealots just to be safe. You see Jieshi rotating around. And we won't quite commit. Oh. Yeah, we're just waiting for more reinforcements. Looking at the unit stat, we have an even amount of Stalkers, plus the Defender's advantage. So stats, he should be able to hold on. Yeah, Jieshi knows that he backs up. He's going to rotate around. Could make his way towards the main. Stats in the midst of expanding. Jieshi already has his 4th. He already threw down his 4th base. We dive on the Prism. Prism goes down. Big snipe there from stats, and he takes down 1. He's going to take down the 2nd Immortal, and Jieshi, he did overextend. He did just overstay his welcome. Stuck around a little bit too long, and stats, upon building up his army, upon kicking in with charge, now he's getting out of hand. Now this is becoming a bit too much. Stats, he does have the better army. The better composition, I should say. And Azel's doing an amazing job here, just tanking shots. Stats, though, were bleeding out of units here, and I was about to say that Stats, he can't really commit without a Warp Prism. He needs reinforcements. He needs those Warp Ins, and Stats, he bleeds out quite a lot here in the attack. At the same time, where's the Prism? Not with the main army. It's going for harass. Bold move. Bold move out of Stats here. Gonna be moving out for a counterattack instead. Zealots take it into the mineral line. Probes are going down. Looking at the unit stat, Jieshi does have the Stalker lead. So Stats, he can't win a head-on engagement. 4 probes full. Then we back up. We force the overcharge. And Stats, he will retreat. And this is still very neck and neck here. Jieshi, remember, he had the faster 4th. In general, Jieshi also had the faster 3rd base. He's had the higher worker count for most of this game. Jieshi maintains that economic advantage, and with that, he does have a higher Stalker count in general. Now, the Immortals were killed, so we're lacking Immortals, making up for that in Stalkers. Stats moves right through the center. Jieshi has to respond. Does he, though? We could commit. We could try to, but Stats, he keeps up. He does fall back in time. Sees the main army. Shield battery isn't done, by the way. Yeah, we can focus that down. And we won't quite commit. We're going to back off from here. We get 3 probe kills. At the same time, the Zealot run-by does come in. A big Zealot counterattack as we break the shield battery, we break the cannon. These Zealots are getting a lot done. At the same time, Stats pushing through. He's pulling Jieshi apart as we get the warp into the main base. Zealots in the natural, Zealots in the main. We force a recall. The main army is breaking through. The tri-pronged attack out of Stats. And even though Jieshi has the higher army supply, he's just being pulled apart. He just doesn't have enough where he needs it. Zealots, they are reinforcing. It looks like Jieshi will hold on to his 4th. And he's lost 8 workers, and that evens up the worker count. As we're trying to get some more damage done. Another big warping into the main base. A massive amount of Zealots here. Can we deny +2? Oh, we will delay it. The pylon goes down, and oh, that's quite a bit depowered. We get 10 worker kills. We recall back home as Stats takes a slight worker lead. Meanwhile, Jieshi, he's the first to take a 5th base towards his opponent. A bold base to be taken here by Jieshi. Stats, he's going for the gold. He is going for the gold, and this is still a very scrappy game state. Like, it's still very close between these 2 players. The economy is pretty neck and neck. You know, at one point, swinging in favor of one player, then the other. Zealot run-by is being sent out. We are going to be reinforcing. And it looks like Stats is going to be calming things down. He's calming things down. The Zealot aggression for the most part has ended. We do have another run-by set up for the natural. We do have the Prism poised for the main. But you can see Jieshi taking this very seriously. We have cannons and shield batteries all on the way. We'll leave some units in position. Meanwhile, at the same time, Jieshi just scattered the goal, I believe. At least he saw the army.
Warriors have engaged the enemy.
Now, from here, we haven't ticked up even further, or further at all. I'm waiting for Templar Archives, or Robotic Spade, Destructor Production, or Archons. That's not really on the table yet. Both players are getting into +3. Both players are sticking with gateway heavy compositions. Basically, Stalker Zealot versus Stalker Zealot. A very mobile army. Not very expensive either. So both players they should be maxing out. When it comes to the +3 timing, even though the Forge was depowered, it's still faster. Still faster than that of Stats. Stats going for a 2nd Forge. That's going to be for shield upgrades or even armor upgrades as well. Both do have their place. Stats, he rotates around. He catches the 5th. Army's out of position. The 5th base taking some damage. 5 probes go down. At the same time, a big Zealot run-by here at the 3rd. Only 1 shield battery. Yeah, we do see a weak point here in the defense. Recall the Zealots. Gonna be able to hold on. Will hold, he will survive. At the same time, Jieshi going for his own Zealot drop, but is going to be cleaned up. It gets 3 probes in a cannon, not too bad. Going for a warp in. Trying to get a bit more done, but the Prism goes down at the same time. We do see Jieshi pushing straight for the center. Straight for the goal base. Overcharge is popped. Zealots are running out on both sides. Jieshi is going to be falling back, but he does get 9 probe kills. Remember, he came in from behind. He got the workers in the gold, in the mineral line. Zealot run bys, they just don't stop. Don't stop, Happy. And Stats, he is breaking through here towards the south, getting a couple of stalker kills, big pickoffs. Jieshi does defend, he does clean this up, he does maintain a higher worker count. Again, killing those 9 pros was pretty big. Was pretty huge. But Jieshi needs time to recover. 3 max. +3 is done for our purple Protoss. So Jieshi has the upgrade advantage. This is an anti-timing out of Stats. He does have the better concave, but I spoke too soon because here come reinforcements. Jieshi is collapsing on this army. +3 just now finished for Stats. At the same time, Zellarambai comes in. Site defense is trying to buy some time. We do have a warp in. And Jieshi should clean this up. We do mix in an Immortal. That is going to help out quite a lot, actually. Stats is breaking through. And Jieshi doesn't have enough to defend. He's trying to rotate back around. The natural base has been broken. And Stats, he dives on the army. Catching out some free units. Zeld's going to be going down. Stats, he's maxed out. He does have momentum on his side. Again, Stats, he breaks the base. He catches a bunch of units. And we're going for a base trade. We're going for a straight up base trade. Stats, he kills the 4th. Meanwhile, his 5th gold base is going to be going down. And we're going to keep on pushing. Stats splitting up his army. Won't quite. There we go. He should be able to take down the 5th and the 3rd. Stats, he's just so much faster with the base trade. We're running out of buildings. We have to recall. Yeah, we do have to recall back home. Jieshi is down to 2 bases, the main base and the 5th, because the 3rd is gonna fall. Meanwhile, Stats, he still has so much mining going on, he can warp in. Yeah, it's like, again, Stats, he was just so much faster to pull the trigger on the base trade. He has the economy, he has the production. Jieshi just now finishing up with his shields. He is collapsing on this. He does have that 1 Immortal. But Jieshi didn't kill the 3rd. And with that, it's all or nothing for Jieshi. He's all in. Doesn't have an economy. Not anymore. Stats, he still has more than his opponent. Is bleeding out a lot of Stalkers. That is true. He's also going ham in the main. Stats getting ready for a backstab. This is not a fight that Stats really wants to take, but he's coming in from behind. And the surround! The surround has arrived. We collapse on Jieshi. And it looks like he will be cleaned up. He just doesn't have enough left. Takes down the prison, but it's not enough. GG gets called, and Stats will take game number 1. GG. GG, well played. Whew, a solid game there. Out of both players, actually, it was very back and forth, but Stats does barely take game number 1. In general, Stats, he was a lot more active. He was very in the face of his opponent, constantly going for Zealot drops and Zealot run-bys as well, warp-ins, big pushes and big counterattacks. And even though Jieshi was holding on, like, he was slowly losing a little bit too much until eventually he was broken. Eventually, he started dropping bases, and that's when Stats was finally able to gain some momentum. Until that point, though, until the end, Jieshi was keeping up, is what I will say. I do think both these players are pretty comparable in skill at the moment. And I would not be surprised if this goes to the ace match. Would not be surprised. Here we go. We're getting into game number 2. I'm catching up in the chat. First time was right. A Keybrit. Ah, there you go. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Not Kybrit. For some reason, I was thinking of like Kyber crystals. But Keybrit. Oh, thank you for the support. Thank you. Always. Love you too, Pap. Yeah. Pap. Hi, Pap. Can we petition for Light to switch name to Swato? Oh, Swato? Oh god. Light in Polish. You're an animal. You're an animal. Alright, but here we go. We're getting into game number 2 and spawning in the top left-hand corner of Oceanborn, we have our Chinese Protoss player, the purple Protoss representing Dragon, KaiZ Gaming, down in the series, looking to bounce back. Let's see if he can. It is Jieshi. And spawning in the bottom right hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss player, the red Protoss representing himself, currently teamless but leading the series 1-0. It is Stats. Here we go. Ooh, and again, that was a pretty intense game there between Jieshi and Stats, especially in the early to mid game. It was a very back and forth, just the constant push and pull between Stats and Jieshi. Eventually things settled down, and it did turn into a game where Stats, even though he was behind in the economy, he was just constantly going for this harassment. Zella run by, Zella drops, the Stalker pushes on the right hand side, and he did pull Jieshi apart. Again, Stats was in the driver's seat, but we'll see how things differ here as we get into game 2. We'll see if Jieshi will try to be a little bit more assertive and aggressive. We'll see if he becomes more greedy here. What tech are we going to go for? How do we spice things up? I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. For now, we do see our 2-gate opener from both players. Likewise, we have our second pylon in the main base for Stats, second pylon in the main base for Jieshi, so there's no proxy, and both players are fully aware. Both players are aware that there's nothing amiss, nothing awry, and we should be getting into our game. Our first units of choice from Jieshi is going to be double Stalker. We do have a Stalker Sentry out of Stats instead. This is a much safer way to open up. For those that are curious, this opener is going to be buffed in the next patch, as the Sentry is going to get a little bit more DPS and more shields as well in PvP. Just going to become beefier and more effective in general. So we do love to see it. But this is a very safe opener because even though Stats, what he lacks here is DPS. You know, he doesn't have as much firepower as Jieshi has, but he does have some scouting information. Again, the Hallucination Scout should soon be moving out across the map to get a read on what exactly the opposing Protoss is up to. Again, scouting is paramount in PvP because there are so many different builds, so many different tech switches and tech structures, and you can't really spice things up. And I have to get rid of the tuna. I have to get rid of the tuna after this. I'll try to remember. As the Hallucination Scout is moving out, and we will be getting eyes on our opener. So far, it is going to be a faster Nexus. Going to be the Nexus here from his opponent's Stats. He will confirm. Natural base has been taken. No early tech. No early aggression. But here come the Stalkers. Yeah, we do have our shield battery finishing up just in time. Again, it was very necessary here for Stats to throw down that shield battery earlier because he does know he's down in Stalkers. So, does make up for it, does defend, does hold him to the natural. Behind this, Twilight Councils are on the way. Twilight Councils are on the way. That's going to be for Blink from both players. So, it should be Blink Stalkers from Jieshi and Blink Stalkers from Stats. You can see Jieshi just fanning out his units. He knows he has map control because he has a Stalker lead, so he's free to just fan out his units and try to get a read on any kind of hidden tech that Stats could be working with. Meanwhile, here comes another Hallucination Scout. Again, this is the power of the Sentry Opener, the non-stop or the constant Hallucination Scouts to try to get a read on the tech, and we can confirm it's not a Stargate, it's not a Robo, it is a Twilight Council. So Stats just confirms that it's going to be the same build, but he doesn't see the third. Jieshi going for a very fast third base. That's gonna be a little bit behind him, but not by too long. There we go. A couple of seconds behind in that third base timing. Meanwhile, Jieshi coming in with his own hallucination is gonna confirm the third base and the Twilight Council as well. So very similar to the last game in the sense that both Jieshi and Stats are mirroring each other. No big deviations. I guess if you remember, Jieshi's opener last game was a Robo opener into Immortals, if you remember. So there was variation in game 1, but here in game 2, it's basically mirrored builds. There are a couple of deviations, like slight variances here and there when it comes to the timings of certain things, like the slightly faster third base for Jieshi or the Sentry opener of Stats, but all roads lead to Rome, in the sense that both players are headed in the same direction. The end point, the goal, is the same. Destination. Destination is the same for both players. Here we go. We do end up catching the hallucination. Good pickup. Stats moving out on the right-hand side. There is a shield battery and an overcharge. Again, Stats trying to force the issue here. Ideally trying to force the overcharge as well. And at the same time, distracts the main army. Adepts a shade into the natural. Ooh, this is a lot of damage. 4 or 5 probes going to be going down. Again, Jieshi was distracted. We're going to get a 6th and a 7th. No shot. We get a 7th probe as well. Stats, he backs off with the main army. He's content with the damage he's dealt. 7 workers go down for 2 adepts. That is an insane amount of damage dealt already. And Stats, he's able to take a worker lead. Remember, he had a later 3rd base, so Jieshi had the worker advantage, but not anymore. Not anymore. As from here, we're going to be backing off. We're getting into charge. Both players are into +1. Gateway explosions on the way. Stats is the first to take his 4th. Jieshi going to be slightly behind Stats in that 4th base timing. Is now on the way. And Jieshi, I did notice that he did go for a faster war prism. Did sneak out with that faster war prism, so he has potential for a backstab. Prism is now on the way for Stats. I believe this is for the main push. Yeah, you can see it's rallied to the main army, so we're going to be moving out with +1 with this prism. And Jieshi getting ready for his Zealot counterattack. Stats going to be maneuvering with his army, consolidating his forces, bringing everything together, and we are pushing. Now, on the one hand, a Zealot run by could do a lot of damage here. It could do a lot of damage to Stats, but at the same time, Stats has a hefty army. He does have the supply lead, and even if he loses a mineral line, or even if he loses a base, the main army may just win the game. As Stats, he's up, what, 20 army supply. Moving out with massive Zealots. And even though he's down in Stalkers, the Zealots, they make up for it. The Zealots, they do amazingly when it comes to just tanking for the army of Stats. He has numbers on his side. He chases down these Stalkers, gets 1, gets 2. At the same time, Prism gets into the main base. Big warp into the main of Stats. And again, Stats, he doesn't care. He keeps on pushing, takes down the shield battery. Overcharge runs out. In the main base, Zealots are wreaking havoc. They're getting a lot of damage done in the main of Stats. But he's collapsing on the main army. That's the problem here, is that Jieshi is losing his main force. Desperately blinking back, trying to warp in, trying to reinforce. Can Jieshi hold? Can he hold on? Shield batteries, they bought some time, and Jieshi has the Zealot lead. Yeah, he is holding. Did lose 21 probes. But Jieshi will clean this up. At the same time, across the map, also being cleaned up though. And as the dust does settle, even with Stats falling back, he still has the army lead. He has the worker lead because he killed 22 probes. I'm a little bit shocked, but that's how Jieshi was able to hold on. He had to pull the boys, lost a lot of workers. Jeshi's in a rough position here. I would have assumed that the Zealot warping into the main would have dealt more damage, but it didn't. Again, only 8 probes died. Somehow Stats, he minimized his losses in the main. And we're pushing. We're going for another big push. Zealot jump across the map is going to be distracting Jieshi. Main army pushing forward. And we do force the overcharge. Shield battery going to be focused down. Does fall. At the same time, once again, a big Zealot warping into the main base. They're getting stuck on some of the production buildings. So not the most ideal harass here, but we're breaking through nonetheless. Oh, the Immortal has arrived. Jieshi is holding on. He's holding on, forced to warp it, forced to recall. But that's a lot of Zealots. And this recall, it was not it. No, they recall into their deaths. The Stalkers go down, the Immortal as well. A big loss there for Jieshi, and it looks like Stats, he has done it. He's broken his opponent. GG gets called. And Stats will take the series 2-0. GG. GG, well played. Congratulations here to Stats for taking the series. My condolences to Jieshi as he is knocked out of the tournament. But that was a pretty close series. Game 2 was more in favor of Stats. Stats was more in control. But game one was very back and forth. It was very back and forth and very hard to call as well. At times, Jieshi was ahead. At other times, Stats was ahead. Game one was very dynamic, but in the end, Stats does make it through. GG, well played. Stats will advance on into the next round. And the question becomes, who does he face off against next? Who is waiting for Stats in the next round? We have an answer. We do have an answer. Exclamation mark B in the chat if you guys want to have a look at the back of yourselves. Let's have a look together.